All right, we are up to Daf Membeis Amid Aleph. We are 3, 4, 5 lines into the page Tani Idach. So just to review what the Gemara is talking about, is the pasuk says regarding an animal that's getting killed, an animal that's supposed to get the death penalty. The Gemara said, the pasuk says Bal Hashar Naki, that the owner of the animal is cleansed. So we said, what does that mean? So we've been offering a couple drashas. So originally the first drasha has Bal Hashar Naki, that you're not allowed to benefit from the hide. Then we had a second opinion yesterday that Rabbi Eliezer said Bal Hashar Naki teaches you that there's no koifer, chatzi koifer by a tam, meaning that if a mu'id kills someone, you pay koifer, but if a tam kills someone, there is no half koifer. That was Bal Hashar Naki, that the owner is naki, the owner is cleansed, the owner is absolved. Rav Akiva didn't like that because Rav Akiva had a problem, because Rav Akiva says, I don't understand, every time you pay from the value of the animal, it's contingent on the animal having value inherently. There's no half koifer because there's no value because the animal is supposed to be killed. So what are you supposed to do? Sell the animal? What market value does an animal have when it's supposed to be killed? Okay, that was the discussion we had yesterday. Now a new drasha of Bal Hashar Naki. Tani Idach, Bal Hashar Naki, the owner of the animal that's supposed to be killed is absolved. Rav Yossi Aglili Omer, Naki Midmei Vladis. It means that the owner of the animal does not have to pay for the fetus. What is this referring to? This is referring to the concept that the pasuk says, Ki yinotzu anoshim yachtav, that if two men are fighting with each other, and they're trying to hurt each other, and one man punches, instead of punching the other guy, he misses, and he hits the other guy's wife, and causes her to miscarry. God forbid. The pasuk says that you have to pay for the value of the fetus. Okay. To that, the pasuk is now saying, Bal Hashar Naki, that you only have to pay for the value of a fetus when men are getting into a fight and hurt the baby. But if the ox gores a woman and causes the fetus to get lost, you do not have to pay for that fetus. Meaning you'll have to pay stam nezek, whatever you have to pay for all damages, but you do not have to pay a special penalty to pay for the value of the fetus. Bal Hashar Naki, the owner of the animal is exempt. Okay. Amle Rav Akiva says, I don't understand. Hareyu Omer ki yinotzu anoshim v'leishvarim. Rav Akiva says, what do you need a pasuk for? You're telling me there's a special pasuk to say that the owner of the animal doesn't have to pay for the fetus, and if not for this drasha, I would think that you would have to pay for the fetus. But what is the pasuk that talks about the fetus? What does the pasuk say? Ki yinotzu anoshim v'loy behemis, meaning the pasuk itself describes the introduction of the pasuk that it's not referring to animals. So what do you need this special pasuk, Bal Hashar Naki, as if to say that if not for that pasuk, I would think that the animal is included in the parsha. The parsha starts off anoshim v'loy shvarim. So why would I need a pasuk? So the Gemara says, Shapir Kamma Rav Akiva, that's a good taina. So why do you need the pasuk? Why does Rav Yossi Aglili need the pasuk to exempt the owner of the ox from paying for v'ladis? The pasuk says anoshim v'loy behemis. The pasuk is talking about people. Why would I think it's talking about animals? So Amrav Ula Bereder of Idi, Itzterich. The reason why you need the pasuk to exempt the owner of the animal from paying for the fetus, and anoshim is not enough. Kasal kadai dechamina. I would say like this: anoshim v'loy shvarim. I would say you're right. If just the pasuk said anoshim, I would say oxen are not involved, except only when they're similar to a person. See, a person is a mu'id. There's no such thing as a tam by a person. A person punches somebody, he's a mu'id, because it's an act of aggression. It's not like he wasn't aggressive, then became aggressive. People are automatically a mu'id. So this, I'll say it outside, we'll see it inside. So if I just had the pasuk anoshim, I would say like this. Men have to pay for the fetus, but not an ox. But when is an ox exempt? When it's like a person when it's a mu'id. Meaning, mu'id pater, tam chayiv. So that there's a second pasuk, and it says Bal Hashar Naki, that a Bal Hatam is also potter. So the Gemara says, you might think anoshim v'loy shvarim. You're right. The pasuk is describing oxen, people, and not oxen. That oxen are not included in the parsha, but dafka doimin la'anoshim. It's only exempt when the ox is like a person, which is a mu'id. Ma'anoshim mu'adim ashvar mu'adin hatam mechayiv. I would say that maybe if the ox gores, if I just had the pasuk anoshim, I would say an ox is only potter if it's a mu'id, but if it's a tam, it's chayiv. To that, kasav rachmana Bal Hashar Naki to potter. To that, the pasuk says Bal Hashar Naki, that the pasuk saying no, that a tam is potter in all circumstances. Meaning, if I just had, again, the question is, why do I need two psukim to tell me that if an animal gores a woman and it causes a miscarriage, you don't have to pay for the fetus? Why do I need two psukim? So it says the Gemara like this. If I just had the first pasuk, I would say oxen are only exempt when they're a muad. But if they're a tam, they're chayiv. Kamash no, a tam is also potter. Does that make sense? If I just had one pasuk to exempt, I would say it's only exempt when it's a muad. Muad potter, tam chayiv. I need a second pasuk to say tam is also potter. So I would think that a muad is potter from damages, but a tam is chayiv. It's the opposite. That doesn't make any sense. The Gemara says, Amarava Yitziva Ba'aro Gyura B'Shmei Shemaya. A citizen lives on the ground, but a resident lives in the heavens. Meaning that's always the Gemara's way of like a slang version of saying, what are you talking about? It's the opposite. So you're telling me that I would say that a tam is chayiv and a muad is potter? That doesn't make any sense. Why would a tam be chayiv if a muad is potter? We always treat a muad more stringently. So the Gemara says, okay, rather, Ela Amarava Itzrich. The reason why you need two psukim to tell you that the animal doesn't have to pay for vladis is if you just had the word anoshim to say that only men have to pay and not oxen, I would say if you just had anoshim, I would actually say that all oxen are potter, both tam and muad. Tam potter, muad chayiv. To that, the pasuk is saying bala shar naki, that the only one that's exempt is a tam, but a muad is taka chayiv. Meaning, why do you need the word bala shar naki? The bala shar naki is not exempting the ox; it's actually requiring the ox if it's a muad. Meaning, bala shar naki. If it's a tam, it's potter, but if it's a muad, it's chayiv. So now we're saying the drasha of bala shar naki is not exempting animals from paying; it's exempting a tam, but a muad is actually chayiv. It's actually being mechayiv a muad to pay for vladis. So the problem with this is, you're saying that it says in the beginning of the parsha anoshim, which excludes animals, but it says bala shar naki. So what you're doing is, you're saying it excludes a tam, but a muad is chayiv. That's basically the conclusion. The problem is, there's another parsha that has the same flow. The parsha also starts off with anoshim, and that is not regarding killing a fetus, it's regarding embarrassment, right? The pasuk describes that if two men are fighting, and the woman grabs the man's makam erva, and it causes them embarrassment, she has to pay. Now, if you're gonna input the same like formula that you just had, that anytime it says anoshim in the beginning, it's pattering both, and then bala shar naki is requiring a muad, that would mean also that if an ox causes embarrassment, it would be chayiv if it's a muad and pater if it's a tam. If the same formula. The problem is that's not true. The problem is we say that an ox is completely potter from busha. If the ox causes damage that actually embarrasses the person, you're completely potter. So this formula is a problem. The Gemara says, according to your formula, Gabi Boishas Nami Nemahachi, then input the same formula regarding humiliation. Anoshim, the pasuk says regarding embarrassment, anoshim, and you should say the same thing that's exempting oxen that are like anoshim, which is tam and muad. Ma anoshim muadim mashvar muadin v'kavachar milatam deptiri hadikasachon bala shar naki tam potem muad chayiv. But then bala shar naki says that the oxen that's a muad is chayiv. So according to your formula, that would mean busha done by an ox, if it's a muad, is chayiv. The problem is v'chitei machanami ihachi lisni bala shar naki Rav Yossi aglima potem mitmeid v'ladas umiboishes. The problem is that's not true. Everyone agrees that the animal is potter. So what is going on over here? So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. Again, we're back to the same problem, which is, why does Rav Yosef Glili have to say that Bala Shar Naki exempts the owner of the animal from paying for the miscarriage when I already have Anoshim v'lishvarim? So why do I need both drashas? So Abaye and Rava say the following: Anoshim ein ason be'isha ya'onshu, yesh ason be'isha lo ya'onshu. V'lishvarim da'af agavdi yesh ason ya'onshu, hader kasar achmana Bala Shar Naki the potter. You want to know why I need two drashas? Why isn't it enough to say anoshim v'lo shvarim? To say that this parsha applies to people and not to animals? I'll tell you why. When you say the parsha applies to people and not to animals, that kind of sounds like you're saying people have to pay for the miscarriage and not animals. Animals are exempt. I don't read it that way. I actually think animals should be treated more stringently. Why? What's the halacha if, again, these two men are fighting, One of them punches that woman and causes her to miscarriage. So the pasuk say you have to pay. What if instead of causing her to miscarriage, it causes her to miscarriage and it kills her? She dies also. Do you pay for the miscarriage? No. Why? Kim le'b'deramine. You're getting the death penalty. So the death penalty will cover the payment. What if that ox were to gore a woman, cause a miscarriage, and cause her to die? Would you have to conceptually pay? Yes, because there's no such thing as kim le'b'deramine by an ox. So therefore, this is the evolution. The parsha applies to people and not to oxen, not to exempt oxen, but to say that oxen are always chayiv, because oxen are chayiv even if the woman were to die. To that, the pasuk says, Bal Ashar Naki, no, oxen are exempt. That's the evolution. The reason why you need two is because if you just had one, I would say oxen are different than a person, not to say that they're exempt, that oxen are chayiv even when there's the death of the woman. So even when there's the death of the woman, which would give the guy the death penalty, which would exempt him from paying if it was humans, I would say that an animal, not only is an animal chayiv, it's mega chayiv. It's like super chayiv. It's chayiv even when there's the death of the woman. Kamash balan balashar naki potter. Now, one last issue with this works out well. There's one last problem. You're saying that if these two men are fighting, and they intend, one guy, Reuven, is trying to hit Shimon, and as he swings a punch, Shimon's wife stands in, and it hits her. So the miscarriage, you have to pay. And then we said, what if she were to die? You wouldn't have to pay. Why? Because you get the death penalty. That's actually a machlokes tanoim. Whether you get the death penalty when you intended to kill A and you ended up killing B. It's a machlokes whether that's true. So you read this Gemara according to the assumption that if these two men are fighting and Reuven is trying to hurt Shimon, and he's not trying to hurt the wife at all. He's trying to hit Shimon, maybe even trying to kill Shimon. But instead of killing Shimon, he kills Shimon's wife. So you said he would get the death penalty. That's not so pashut. That's actually a machlokes tanoim. According to many tanoim, you do not get the death penalty for that because you did not intend to kill the person you ended up killing. So how do you read in the Gemara then? So the Gemara says, "Maskiv or Ravada Barava, Otu ba'asin tal Yerachmana, bekavani tal Milsa." I don't understand. You're assuming that an ox would always have to pay, because the person wouldn't have to pay if he ended up killing the woman. Why? Because if he killed the woman, he gets the death penalty. That's not so true. I don't think you'd get the death penalty in that case. I think you would have to pay, because you're not going to get the death penalty according to most Tanoim. So the Gemara says, you're right. Let's reread the Gemara to work it according to everybody. When it comes to men, if they're fighting, if Reuven is trying to kill Shimon and he ends up killing Shimon's wife, he will have to pay because there is no death penalty. But let's say Reuven, instead of trying to kill Shimon, tries to kill Shimon's wife, and he ends up killing her and causing a miscarriage. So that's straight up death penalty, no payments. But in ox, but this parsha does not apply to oxen, because I would say by an ox, you should have to pay always, even when the ox tries to kill that woman and intends to kill her and kills her and causes a miscarriage. I would say the ox should have to pay because there's no kimle b'derabmine. Kasar rachmana balashar nakida pater. V'chein ki aser Rav Chagai midraima aser v'asim misim b'derei derevada barava Rav Chagai midraima explained the sugya like Ravada barava as well. Okay, so that's how you can explain this sugya. Tani idach. One more drasha as to what does the word balashar naki teach us. Again, yesterday we had balashar naki teaches you, according to one Tana, that you don't benefit from the hide. Then Rav Eliezer said that there's no half kofer. Rabbi Kiva didn't like that. Then we just had Rav Yosef Glili that balashar naki teaches me that there's no payment for the miscarriage. And now the last one is Rav Kiva. Balashar naki, Rav Kiva omer naki midmei eved. There is no shloishim for eved by a tam. What does that mean? If a mu'id kills a slave, you don't pay kofer. Kofer is the value of the person. You don't pay kofer. That's by a Jew. If it kills a Canaanite slave, there is a financial penalty if the mu'id kills a Canaanite slave, but it's not kofer. It's called shloishim shel eved. It's 30 dinars. It's a penalty from the Torah to pay 30 dinars, because regardless of the value of the slave, you're paying 30 dinars. That's only true if a mu'id kills. What if a tam kills? Is there half shloshim shel dinar? The answer is no. Bal hashar naki, you're completely exempt. Go to the next page. The Gemara says, Akasha, v'neimer Rav Akiva l'nafshei, haloi atzma in mishtal milamegufay, heviu lebezin v'yishalom lach. I don't understand. Yesterday, we had that Rav Akiva didn't like this. Yesterday, Rav Eliezer said, balashar naki teaches me that there's no half kofer. Rav Akiva says, of course there's no half kofer. Kofer is paid from the value of the animal itself. right? You get a percentage of the animal itself, or you sell the animal and then pay because there's a cap. And the animal has no market value. So of course there's no half kofar. That was Rav Akiva's objection yesterday to Rav Eliezer, and Rav Eliezer gave his answers. Today comes Rav Akiva, and he says, you know what Baal Shar Naki teaches me? There's no half shloshim shel eved, which is it's incredibly similar. The same taina that Rav Akiva had in Rav Eliezer, he should have on himself. Of course there's no half shloshim shel eved. The shloshim shel eved would have to be paid by from the value of the animal itself, and the animal has no market value because it's meant to be killed in Bezdin. So I don't understand. The same taina Rav Akiva had in Rav Eliezer, he should have on himself. So the Gemara has a quick back and forth. The case is where the animal was slaughtered by the owner before the owner had a chance to take it to court. Meaning, if the owner had taken it to court, it would have no market value. But over here, the owner slaughtered it before it brought it to court, so you might think it has a market value, and it should pay half shloshim shel eved. Kamash malan, no. Ma'od, you might think the animal, you should sell the animal, and the animal has value. Kamash malan, no. Hoyul barkatalu, since the ox is meant to be put to death, even though you didn't bring it to court, it still is not allowed to benefit from. Okay, the Gemara's point is, since it's supposed to be killed, even though it's not yet in Bezdin, so it's not asur b'hana yet, the Torah does not require you to have financial payments based on the value of the ox. Now, 1 second. All right, the Gemara says, "Yihachi, wait a minute. According to Rav Akiva, the pasuk is saying there's no half shloshim shel eved. Rav Eliezer nam yishakam mishachtai, and Rav Akiva didn't like Rav Eliezer because it has. What do you mean? Of course it has. Of course there's no half kofar. The same question we just had in Rav Akiva, and the answer was the cases where it was slaughtered before you took it to court. So why didn't Rav Eliezer say that? The answer is Hachanami. Rav Akiva could have anticipated that answer. Yesterday's daf. V'samar dilma islay taima achrina da'adif minei v'neimale. Rav Akiva was hoping that Rav Eliezer would have a better reason, and Rav Eliezer Taka did have a better reason. But the truth is, Rav Akiva could have anticipated this being Rav Eliezer's cheshbon. Rav Eliezer nami lishnei l'shakam shachtu. So why didn't Rav Eliezer Taka say again? Yesterday's daf. Rav Eliezer says, what does Baal Shar Naki teach me? So Rav Eliezer says, it teaches me there's no half kofar. Rav Akiva says, of course there's no half kofar. There's no market value. It's a good question. And then Rav Eliezer gave his own answer. Today, Rav Akiva says, what does Baal Shar Naki teach me? There is no half shloshim shel eved. Same question. Of course there's no half shloshim shel eved. I don't need a pasuk. There's no market value. So Rav Akiva said, the case was where I slaughtered it before it was taken to court. You might think it has a market value. Kamash malan, no. So why didn't Rav Eliezer say that yesterday? Why did he give a different answer? Why didn't he say this? The answer is, Amar Lach, Rav Eliezer would say, Hasam hu denischaven la'aragas behem of aragas adam, Dishar lav barkatalahu klal, Tisalgatay tachamina nechayiv, Itzar kolimute, Aval hachademi kara barkatalahu, Leitzarach kra aval gav deshachte. Rav Eliezer didn't like this being the interpretation of the pasuk. Again, Baal Shar Naki teaches me there's no either half kofar, there's no half shloshim shel eved. So he said, of course there's no half shloshim shel eved. So says Rav Akiva, the case is where you slaughtered it before it was taken to court. Rav Eliezer didn't give that answer because Rav Eliezer says that's pashut. You're telling me, again, what's the taina? The taina is, the animal, you're telling me there's a pasuk that the animal, Baal Shar Naki teaches me there's no half shloshim shel eved by a tam. To that, the Gemara had the same taina in Rav Akiva. Of course there's no half shloshim shel eved, because it has no market value. It's supposed to be put to death. To that, Rav Akiva said, the case is where you slaughtered it before you take it to court. Who cares? The animal is still supposed to be put to death. It doesn't matter whether you took it to court or not. Rav Eliezer doesn't like that because Rav Eliezer says that doesn't make a difference. It still has no market value. It still pashut has no market value. It's meant to be taken to court. It did an avera. It caused someone's death, and it's supposed to be put to death. It has no market value. It's asur b'hana, regardless of whether it was taken to court or not. That's why Rav Eliezer gave a different answer yesterday, that the case is where it doesn't get the death penalty. If you remember yesterday, I think the case was that it meant to kill A and it killed B, or the owner was the one who was moida that it killed, but there was no eidim. The point is, there was no actual chi of misa. If there's a chi of misa, even if it was taken before it was taken to court, it's still asur b'hana, it's pashut. Rav Eliezer didn't like it. Rav Akiva nami vadei hachiev. So what does Rav Akiva do with that? How could he say that's what the pasuk is referring to when it's pretty obvious that it doesn't matter whether you slaughtered it before court or not? El Amar Rav Asi, okay, you rather change of shot. Hamilsa mepi degaver Rabbi Shmile. I heard this vart. I heard from Rabbi Yossi Bechanina. Sol katay tachamina. Hoyel v'amar Rav Akiva. Af tam shechava ba'adam mishalim moisin nezek shalem. Mishtalim nami dmei eved ma'alya. Kasav rachmana bal hashar naki. Meaning, what's the halacha? A tam that gores a person. So you'll say half damages, right? When a tam gores an animal, it's chatzi nezek, that's for sure. What about when a tam gores a person? Rav Akiva Shita, if you remember, it's machlekes tanoim. Rav Akiva Shita is that when a tam gores a person, it's nezek shalom. So now going back to the case, what's the case? The shaila was the pasuk says balashar naki, which Rav Akiva says it teaches me there's no chi of shloshim shel eved if a tam kills a slave. So we said of course not. It's asa b'hana. The answer is you might think that because when a tam gores a person it pays nezek shalom. So you might think. And nezek shalom, right? Nezek shalom is not based on the value of the animal itself. There's no cap. It's just nezek shalom. So because if a tam gores a person, it pays nezek shalom. Maybe if a tam kills an eved, it also pays shloshim shel eved. Again, what was the problem? The problem was tam only pays chatzi nezek, which means you get a percentage of the value of the animal. The animal has no market value. Why is that not a problem by mu'ud? Because a mu'ud is nothing to do with the value of the animal. Mu'ud is just you pay nezek shalom, you pay for the value of the damage. So says the Gemara, Rav Akiva holds that when a tam gores a person, you pay nezek shalom. So maybe also when a tam kills an eved, you also pay nezek shalom. You pay shloshim shel eved. The problem is, when a tam gores a person, Rav Akiva says you pay nezek shalom, there's still a cap. Even nezek shalom, when a tam gores a person and pays nezek shalom, even Rav Akiva is moided, there's a cap, which means it's still based on the value of the animal. And back to the original problem, this animal has no market value. Meaning, why is it that there's kofar by a mu'ud? Because the animal's supposed to be put to death. The mu'ud payment is 100% to pay for the damage. It is irrelevant, the value of the aggressive animal. It's irrelevant. There's no cap. There's no percentage of it doesn't matter. You pay. A tam, the payment of a tam, even nezek shalom, is contingent on the value of the animal. Meaning, even when Rav Akiva says that a tam gores a person and pays nezek shalom, you don't just pay the value of the damage, you pay nezek shalom up to the value of the aggressive animal. If the aggressive animal is supposed to be put to death and has no market value, there is no payment. So why, back to the original question, why is it that Rav Akiva says, Balashar Naki teaches me that there's no tam payment, shloshim shel eved? Of course there's no payment, shloshim shel eved. The animal has no market value. And even though Rav Akiva holds tam pays nezek shalom, but still nezek shalom is still based on the value of the animal itself. It's still capped. Amle Rav Zayla Rav Asi, Hatav Rav Akiva l'gzizeh. Rav Akiva broke his own ruling. He limited it. The Tanya Rav Akiva Omer Yochel Yishal Min Aliyah Tamalem Kemishbash Yaseloi. Megufa Mishal Mishal Aliyah. There's still a cap, which means even a tam's payment, whether it's nezek shalom or chatzi nezek, is always contingent on the value of the animal itself. This animal has no market value. It's asa b'hana. Therefore, I don't need a pasuk to tell me there's no shloshim shel eved by a tam. Back to the original problem. So the Gemara says, Al Amar Rava Itzrich. This is Rava's side, which will take us almost to the end of the daf. Rava says, I'll tell you very simply. Sagatay tachamina hoil machmirni be'evid yosim dei chayrin. Sheben chayrin yofen sela nois and sela shloishim nois and shloishim. Ve'evid yofen sela nois and shloishim mishtalim nami d'mei eved min aliyah kasa rachmana balashar naki. You know what the pshat is? When you have, right, there's no, let's go to yesterday's daf, right? A mu'id that kills a person pays kofar. Rav Eliezer says, if a tam kills a person, maybe there's half kofar. Baal Ashar Naki says there's no payment at all. Rav Akiva didn't like that because Rav Akiva says, if it's a tam, it has no market value. Okay, that was the tiny yesterday. What about today's daf? The exact same thing, but instead of kofar, he is saying it by shloshim shel eved. Meaning, that we know that if a mu'id kills a slave, there's shloshim shel eved, you pay 30 dinars. Rav Akiva says, I might think that if a tam kills an eved, he should also pay kamashal and balashar naki. We said, I don't understand. When a tam pays, it's based on the value of the animal. This animal has no market value. It should be the exact same thing as a kofar. You know what the answer is? Shloshim shel eved is actually more strict than kofar. Why? Kofar is you pay the value of the person. If the person's worth $100, you pay $100. Person's worth $20, you pay $20. Shloshim shel eved is actually more strict. Why? You pay 30 dinars regardless of the slave's value. The value of the slave could be $3. You're paying 30 dinars. Doesn't matter. So you might think that because Shloshim shel eved is like a knas, and it's a very strict penalty, you might think even a tam should pay. Kamash one, no. Meaning, although we know a tam is not going to pay for kofar, but Shloshim shel eved might be different. Why? Because Shloshim shel eved is a knas. And it's a very high level knas. Because even if you have an older slave that's 100 years old, that's 350 pounds, and his market value is $2, you are paying 30 dinars of, which is a tremendous amount of money. Point is, because of that, I might think that there is Shloshim shel eved by a tam, kamash one, no. That's the point. Basically, that Rav Akiva, the reason why he thinks that there would be a Shloshim shel eved by a tam, even though a tam has no market value, is because Shloshim shel eved is a knas, because it doesn't matter the value of the eved, you're paying the same amount. You might think there is no cap and you pay it by a tam as well. Kamash one, no. That's Rava's pshat, and now we have a brayse that backs up Rava. We'll do a little bit of Gemara and then we're done. Tani kavasid de Rava. We have a brayse that backs up Rava. What does the brayse say? Bal hashar naki, the owner of the animal is absolved. Rav Akiva omer naki min dmei eved. Rav Akiva says this is telling you that if a tam kills a slave, there is no shloshim shel eved. So the Gemara says, wait a minute, what do I need a pasuk for? It's mamish what we just did in a brayse. Well, I don't understand. Isn't there a kal v'chomer that says I don't have to pay? What do I need a pasuk for? Hoyel v'chayiv be'eved v'chayiv be'ben chorin. Ma chayiv be'ben chorin chalakta bo ben tam lemuid af keshechayiv be'eved nechlak ben tam lemuid. What do I need a pasuk for? There's kofar by when you kill a Jew. There's shloshim shel eved when you kill a slave. Now there is no kofar by a tam, so shouldn't there not be any kofar by a tam? Meaning there's no kofar by a tam, so shouldn't there not be any shloshim shel eved by a tam? What's the difference? V'oid, and another reason, kavachomer uma ben chorin shenoisim kol shavyav chalakta by min tam lemuid. I have another reason why you shouldn't have to pay shloshim shel eved by a tam, because by a kofar you're paying a lot of money potentially, right? If you have a slave that's worth $10 million, you're paying $10 million, and there's still no kofar by a tam. Shloshim shel eved is just 30 dinars. What if the slave is worth 100? You're only paying 30, so you should be more lenient. So what do I need a pasuk for? To that the Gemara says what Rava says. Machmir be'eved loy. Machmir be'eved yoysim b'char. No, you're mistaken. Shloshim shel eved is actually a knas, and it's more strict. Why? Sheben charin yofen sela noisin sela. By kofar, you're paying the value of the person. Shloshim noisim shloshim. If he's worth 30, you pay 30. If he's worth 1, you pay 1. Eved yofen sela noisim shloshim yochel yechayiv tamaloy merbalasham naki naki midvei eved. But by shloshim shel eved, where you always pay 30 dinar, even if the slave is worth $1, you might think that because it's a knas, there should be a knas by tam as well. Kamash bolon, no. Bala sharnaki. Okay. End of that sugya. We'll do one more quick sugya, and that is going to take us into a discussion of inheritance. Yerusha by a woman who passes away. Who gets it? Does it go to the husband? Does it go to her parents, her father, her family? That's the question. So the Gemara says, Tan Rabban. V'hemis ish o isha. The pasuk says regarding a muad that if a muad kills a man or a woman, it pays kofar. Amar Rav Akiva, v'chima bezelamanu. Why do I need the pasuk to tell me that you pay kofar if it kills a woman? Im l'chayv isha v'ish. Don't I already know this? Harik v'nemer ki yigach shar es ish o isha. The pasuk starts off if a man gores a woman, meaning they're all the same when it comes to halacha. Men and women are the same. So why does the pasuk have to say there's a kofar by a woman? You know why it says isha in the pasuk? Not to say that there's kofar by a woman. I already know that, but it's rather to say, just like, right? Kofar it kills Reuven, right? You can't pay Reuven because Reuven's dead. So who does it go to? It goes to Reuven's heirs, his sons. So too, if a woman is killed, who do you give it to? You give it to her heirs, meaning not her husband, her family. It goes to her family, her father, her brother, her son, not her husband. That's the chiddush of the pasuk. Now, okay, interesting. Meaning, although the husband inherits her for all other things, not for kofar. That's what we're saying. V'savar Rav Akiva l'yaris labal. Wait a minute. You're telling me that the husband does not inherit the wife? Meaning, in general? I know by kofar you're saying this, but is this like indicative of in general the wife is not inherited by the husband? V'hatanya. V'yoresh osa mikansha bal yoresh isha de Reb Kiva. The wife, when the wife passed away, the husband inherits it. So what? Meaning, basically, why would kofar be different? So the Gemara is Amrish Lakish. Lo yomer ela b'kofar. The answer is kofar is not the rule; it's the exception. Why? The difference is the husband inherits things that she owned when she was alive. Let's say a woman had a piano. So she owned it when she was alive. When she passed away, it goes to her husband. Kofer is paid after she passes away. It's like getting a check that she gets, like, let's say a woman passes away and then she gets a check from her uncle who passed away. Does it go to the husband? No. The husband only inherits things that she owned when she was alive. Kofer is paid after, it's posthumously, it's after her death. So because it's after her death, it doesn't go to the husband, it goes to her family.
So a pension, he should not get.
If that's, it's interesting. It's a good question. If we look at pension, right? I guess pension is, she has no rights to pension when she's alive, right? Right? Is that how you look at it?
No. I mean, she gets
I'm saying
collected a pension.
That would.
He's getting the pension. He's getting. Let's say it's a divorced couple. So she gets.
Yeah, but divorce is different. Divorce, he's not inheriting her anymore. That's why it's a little tricky. Divorce is a little different. The point is, if it's something that she owned when she was alive, then it goes to her husband. But if it's money that fell after her death to her estate, that's why I like inheritance. Let's say she had an uncle who passed away after she died. She had a great uncle who passed away. So the money went to her, but she's not alive anymore. Then it does not go to the husband. It seems from the sugya. I don't know halacha. It goes to her children or her brother or her father. The Gemara says, "My taima." Why do we assume this is the same case by a kofer? So you see that by a kofer, which is paid after death, it goes to her heirs, not her husband. One last Gemara, and then we'll end with this. We're not going to be done the sugya. You know what? Let's stop here. We'll pick it up tomorrow, Bez Hashem. Okay. All right. Shkayach. Have a good one.
Shkayach.